Good evening, everybody. This is Dave Eldon. With me is Dalton Grimes, and we have got a special treat for you tonight, haven't we, Dalton?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'm feeling a little down. I think I need some inspiration.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I have a magic card that you could look at.
Ooh, I like looking at magic cards. Show
yeah.
me a magic card,
Well,
David.
let's just say
do it.
let's just say there is not going to be a whole lot of magic cards in this particular episode today.
But you just promised one.
We have got another type of treat.
Are you
everybody.
lying to me?
Lying? Oh goodness, no.
A good leader wouldn't do that, David.
One time dealer. Look at that. Leader of
Hit
the
me.
Wild Hunt. Is that a card? I think this has to be one. The auto card thing is not as great as it could be at coming up with puns. I'll tell you
Stampede.
that. Oh man, is that all we got? Here we go. This is a more baller
That's
magic card.
close.
This has leader in it. This is a leader magic card.
It
This is
does.
leader.
Aurelia is great.
She's hardcore. We're doing some hardcore talking today about a very important topic, leadership. This is a little different from what we normally do. Usually we might be used to rules and policy type topics where we talk about how stuff works.
But we're done. We've covered them all.
Yeah, we already did all the ones that we cared about. So,
There's nothing more to discuss there.
if you want to learn more about rules and policy, you go to blogs.magicjudges.org/FTW.
We're done.
And so we thought this could be a fun change of pace here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about a very important topic, obviously, for the judge program, leadership. And it's going to be like kind of our thoughts on leadership and what leadership looks like and doesn't look like, and our advice to judges who have maybe see leadership as an area for improvement for themselves, and what they can do to make the prospect a little less intimidating. Because I remember, I'm my advanced age here, but I still remember back when I originally became a judge, and the prospect of leadership was very, very intimidating for me. And I imagine that the same is true for most of the people who haven't been in a leadership role before they became involved in the judge program.
I would agree.
So yeah, it's a very intimidating prospect. It's the sort of thing that doesn't really come up much in everyday life if you are the sort of person who, for example, makes up the core demographic of magic judges, let's say. And so in that respect, it's the sort of thing that it's kind of intimidating because it's like the unknown. But it is also definitely the case that if you are a judge, you are a leader. Right, and that's true whether we want it to be true or not. And so sometimes people think that that's intimidating. Other people, it's like one of the big reasons why you want to become a judge. But regardless of how you feel, leadership is expected of you if you're a judge, and that's true for everybody in the program. And the only real difference, we'll talk about this more as we go on. But if you're a level 1. This is you too. This definitely includes you, because everybody who's in the judge program has different leadership type of things that they do. So what do you think?
I think that's a very important thing to highlight, is that all of the judges that you meet and interact with, we all know the core ideas of magic. We know the rules and policy behind it, but each one of us is a very different person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things that David is phenomenal at magic and at judging might not be the same case for another judge, but that doesn't mean they're any less qualified or any less deserving of that position.
Yeah. And also true is that even if you're not naturally great at it, all judges need a certain amount of these types of skills in order to function. And leadership is definitely one of those skills, just as much as rules and policy knowledge or logistical skills or customer service. These are all skills that you need at least a certain baseline in order to function effectively as a judge. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, and we're going to be talking about how. Let's start with the very basics, right? So
Okay.
what
Basics are
is
great.
what is leadership to you, Dalton? What
me?
is if you were going to define the trait of leadership in a way that somebody could be like, okay, I'm not really sure whether I'm a good leader or not. What would I be looking at or looking for in order to say whether I was or wasn't?
So for me, this is something that I try my best to think about not only before events, but also during them, about whether or not I'm reflecting that idea of leadership that I want to present.
Yeah.
When I'm participating in these, I'm thinking about my players in these situations.
Okay.
Am I putting on a good event for the people that are here? Because a lot of what I think about with judging happens at the event or right before it, when you're setting up, when you're putting names into the computer, when you're tearing down or putting up table numbers. And so I always think about the customer service aspect of it, of can I put something forward that people are going to enjoy? Can I help run this event? It's not about, it's not always about knowing all the rules. There's a lot more that goes into judging, and that's what I tend to focus on personally.
Okay. So what about that, like in terms of leadership, mm-hmm. what do you think is like the most important trait for a judge?
So
if you were going to be a leader, what traits would you expect that person to have?
So what traits would I expect a leader to have? David,
yes.
You're putting me so on the spot here.
Oh,
why are you interviewing me live? This is so hard.
Is it? Is it?
Oh.
So decisiveness, is that
That's
what you
a pretty
would say?
good one.
Okay.
So, and as I mentioned, everyone's going to have very different answers for this.
Yeah.
But I think something that's very important is being able to help others to succeed in events. And if you want to come up with a word for that, please be my guest, because I can't think about it right now. Mentorship. I guess that would be a really good one, of helping others to move forward and make the best out of their opportunities, to help them to be awesome at what they're doing.
Yeah. I'm going to cop out. I'm not going to cop out permanently. I'm going to cop out until the very end. The trait that I think is the most important for good leadership. But I think I have an answer, and it may be the definitive answer to that question. Ooh. Which is a very bold claim to make.
Yes, it is. You know how many judges there are out there, David?
There's a lot.
And
there's a lot of different leadership styles, and that's something we'll talk about some more as we go on. But okay, the first thing that I want to talk about is exactly what leadership is. We've kind of talked about it, but as you may have guessed from hearing me and Dalton kind of beat around the bush a little bit,
for a bit,
it's very, very difficult to explicitly pin down what leadership is. Like it's one of those things where it's like looking at a great work of art, right? Like anybody, you don't have to be like a art critic or art historian or someone who's really well versed in art to be able to look at a masterpiece and be like, wow, that is a masterpiece. That's excellent. And so leadership
definitely
is the
my
same
favorite
thing.
part about Kaladesh.
Yeah?
Yeah, the masterpieces.
Oh, gosh.
So good.
So leadership is the same way, right? Like it doesn't take any special skill or knowledge or anything to look at someone who's a great leader and be like, that is a great leader. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you were going to sit down with a canvas and try to paint something,
oh boy.
Yeah, it's not immediately obvious what you would need to be doing in order to paint something that would be considered a masterpiece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think that Van Gogh sat down, painted Starry Night, and was like, I think Van Gogh painted Starry Night.
Yeah, I mean yes.
But do you think he sat down there at the table and was like, you know what? People are going to love this in 300 years. Yeah. This is so cool. I'm so good.
Yeah, or Pollock, for example.
No.
Do you think Pollock just sat down and randomly splattered paint across the canvas? And okay,
yes.
maybe that's a bad example.
Probably.
But the reason that those are considered great masterpieces is that there is thought and purpose behind them, even if it's not readily apparent at the time, and even if it's not readily apparent unless something else happens. So what I want to do is kind of talk about some stuff that leadership is not, and
which is oddly probably easier
to
help
it definitely
get an
is.
idea of it.
Like if you want to get an idea of what leadership is, it's important to have an idea of some stuff that it isn't, because there are a lot of different kind of pitfalls that people have when they're thinking about leadership. So let's think about the first one that I always bring up is authority, right? So leadership is very often confounded with authority, right? So
I'm in charge. Woo!
Yeah,
I did it. Everyone listen to me.
Exactly. And while it may be true that everybody is obligated to listen to you if you have authority,
peasants.
Yeah, this is not leadership, right? The authority, the ability or the right to exercise authority is not leadership. Being put in charge of something doesn't make you a leader. It just makes you a manager, right? And there's nothing wrong with being a manager, but that's not what we're talking about here today. And in fact, it seems to me that the best leaders often tend to exercise their authority in not obvious ways, and the best leaders, the people who are the most likely for me to want to follow them, is people who trick other people into being awesome. You don't just tell people to do stuff and expect it to be done. What you do is you think about other people's capabilities, other people's experiences, and you try to give them opportunities to grow, or even better yet, you try and force there to be situations where they can grow. And that is not a rote, A plus B kind of a thing that authority is. It's much more dynamic and much more thinking about it.
So I've got a question for you, David.
Yes.
So I think it's pretty easy to see how this might apply at something like a Grand Prix or an SCG Open. You take maybe the people that are very friendly and fun and you put them on the side events to help make those exciting.
Okay.
You take the people who have great rules knowledge or are maybe working towards something and put them on the main event so that they get a lot of experience with competitive or something like that. How can we apply that at a local level?
All
can
right.
I, as a leader, if I'm the only judge in the store, can I be a leader? Who am I leading?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very good point. A lot of this advice is going to kind of naturally gravitate towards leadership at big tournaments, but that is by no means the only arena that judges exercise a leadership role in. And in fact, it's very, very much the case that judges are expected to function in a leadership role at a store level or a local level. And especially if you are a judge, the players are looking to you as a leader, almost certainly, because that's what the role of a judge is a leadership role.
Exactly. So as a judge, I love Grand Prix, love SCGs. They're great. But I think that honestly, my favorite events I run are pre-releases.
Yeah.
And that's because when I'm there, I have a really good idea of the mentality and the fun that I want to have at the event. And as a leader, though not an authoritative one or one who's, trying to stretch too far, I help try to set that mood for others. I help try to guide the players into having a much more fun and unique experience.
Yeah, so you're saying that you have a vision for how you want the event to be, and you're using your position as a leader to help execute that vision.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And so even though I'm not working with other judges necessarily, or at least not in a capacity of, a team lead, say, to his staff, I still get to be a leader in that community.
Right. Perfect. So the next thing that I want to talk about is that leadership is infallibility, right?
Oh boy.
So this is another. It's kind of related to the previous point of authority, where like if you're the head judge, right? You're the boss.
Sure.
Your word is final on rulings, and that's true whether you're right or wrong.
Yes.
And so like if someone on the floor makes a ruling that the players disagree with, the players can appeal that ruling. If you're the head judge, your rulings are final, and that is again for some an intimidating thought, but for others an invigorating thought. But it's important to think this is also not leadership, right? Even though you're the leader, the person whose job it is to say what we're going to do, that doesn't mean that your decisions are always right when the question of what should we do comes up. And this is something that is very related, like I said, to authority. A lot of people who are authoritarian leaders have this kind of misconception in them that because I'm the leader, I'm right. Whatever I say is the right answer. And that is an important thing to not have the mindset of, because if you are a leader, then you're still a human. So you can still be wrong.
Unless you are a lizard person.
I don't think we have many of those in the judge program. It's possible, I suppose.
Not that you know of.
Yeah. That's very true.
Another important aspect of this is, I'll provide a little story here. Right after our last stream, David and I left for the weekend to Cincinnati.
Yes.
For an SCG Open. And coincidentally, he and I both took a call together involving a potential mistrigger with an outpost siege.
Yes.
Yeah.
The outpost siege is what the player had.
So,
and you thought that I wasn't going to get to use this thing.
So David and I come up to the table, and player reaches for his library, pulls the card off, says draw, and he goes, oh no, wait, outpost siege. And so David and I, we talk about this. His opponent said that, he said draw, so he missed his trigger because he was in the draw step. And David and I talked about this, and we decided that even though he said draw, it wasn't that he had forgotten the trigger yet. He still had the ability to demonstrate it. So we made that ruling, and the opponent wanted to appeal it. So does this mean he was personally attacking us and that he was calling us out and saying that we were wrong and that we couldn't possibly be right about this?
Well,
not at all. Maybe he could have.
Possible, but no. When you get appealed, you're a judge. Obviously, that's can be kind of a jarring experience because, again, when you're a judge, even a floor judge, you have authority because you are a leader, and that getting appealed feeling kind of is like calling that authority into question.
It was my first appeal, David.
Was it?
Yeah,
it really?
It was.
Oh my goodness. I remember my first appeal. Everybody was like, all like, oh, are you okay, Dave? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. But being a little facetious here, but it's kind of a jarring experience, and it's very much a reminder of this exact point, which is that you, even as a judge on the floor, are not infallible. You can make mistakes, and players absolutely have the right to say, I don't think that what you said is the correct ruling, and I'd like somebody else to look at that. Now, the other important thing is, even if you're the head judge and your ability to make the final call comes into question, that does not mean that whatever I say is the right answer. It is still very much possible for someone, even the head judge, even if they're very, very experienced with the rules, to not understand something or get something wrong or make a mistake. And that is a part of leading too. It's when you're a leader, you bear the heavy yoke of making close calls.
Yes, you do.
And rules and policy thing is one thing when there's a definite right or definite wrong answer, and maybe you didn't get the right answer, but there still was one. Even more scary than that, in my opinion at least, is if you're doing an investigation and you think maybe someone cheated but maybe they didn't, and you have to, it's a close call. It's not like a trivial DQ investigation. Those are the ones that really put you to the test, and those ones really remind you you're not infallible. You don't know everything, and as a leader, someone has to make close calls, and that's you. And somebody needs to make those close calls, and somebody needs to take responsibility for the consequences of those calls, and that's what leadership is actually all about. So that's kind of like the counterpoint of infallibility. It's not whatever I say is right, it's whatever I say is what we're going to do, and I have to be the person who can sleep with the decisions that I made at the end of the day, because I'm the one who's responsible for those.
Yeah, you can't always rely on your TO to take care of that. That's something that you are going to have to do. And
yeah.
At an event like an SCG Open, it's, David and I are floor judges for the most part. Have you done any team leading experience before?
Once or twice.
Okay, awesome.
I have the team lead check so I can team lead Grand Prix.
Nice. All right, so I am a floor judge. I am your good old L1 here.
Not for long.
Not for long, I hope. But as a floor judge, I take those calls, and I have that good assurance that even if maybe I do make a mistake, it might get appealed and will go to the head judge. And that's, a little safety net there. Does that mean I can recklessly give my calls and hope that maybe it's right? Absolutely not. But at your local store, even if you're an L1, you might even be an L0 at your store. But you might be that leader in the situation that has to make that call. So it's definitely something that doesn't matter what end of the spectrum, what certification you have, you're probably going to have to be the one to deal with that. So
yeah. So okay, this is the next one. Leadership is not isolating.
I feel like a lot of people can struggle with this one.
Yeah. And again, that's why we're talking about these, is because this is like the most common misconceptions, I think, about leadership. So what do I mean when I say this? What I mean is that a lot of the time when you're the leader, you feel like you have to do all this stuff yourself. Like what we just were talking about, you're the person who bears the responsibility, the ultimate final responsibility for all the calls that you make. And that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in a situation where you're the only person who has the authority to make those types of calls, then you can kind of feel this barrier in between like yourself and in between yourself and the other judges. And it's isolating to feel that way. It's isolating to think, oh, I have to do this all myself. I have to have all this responsibility. I have to make sure everything goes right. I have to make sure I do the right stuff all the time. And that is not the attitude that you want. That is not a trait of a good leader. Rather, a good leader is somebody who relies on the people who he or she is leading in order to bring about the best outcome for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll use an example here. If you're the head judge and you have the final say on a ruling that gets appealed, you're the person who makes that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's a chance that your rules and policy knowledge isn't as good as the best rules and policy person that's on your team. And so if that's the case, there's absolutely nothing wrong with consulting with somebody whose rules and policy knowledge is higher than yours when you're making those calls. And that's definitely something that's come up before. I personally have a very high level of rules and policy knowledge. It's something that I do a whole lot of, and there's times when I'm not sure. And there's times when I like talk to other people and say, hey, okay, this is the situation that happened. What's your interpretation of how we should apply policy? Or this is the situation that happened. What is the correct way to apply the rules in this case? And I even someone who's extremely high, very high level in the program, has the potential to benefit from a second opinion, and that's very important. It's very important for you as a leader to recognize the times when you would benefit from a second opinion and figure out who the best person or people on your team to do that is.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I've been trying to do when I'm working at larger events with more judges is that whenever I see a judge answer a call, I look around, and if they're by themselves, I still like to go over to that table.
Yeah, for sure.
Because one judge can give a ruling, and that's fine. That's what they're there for. But, maybe they might not be fully sure, or they have a good idea, but they're like 90% on it.
Yeah.
It's really great to have another judge there. And that's something that anyone can do and help out with. With that outpost siege situation, David could have handled that fine. Dalton could have handled it fine. I had no reason to think that David might need help with this call. But I went there, and we still discussed it, and we made sure we came to the right answer.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this is one that I am having to work on. Not calling myself out or anything, but definitely something that I can look at is that, as I mentioned, I'm an L1. Cool. Yay. A lot of us are.
Yeah. Most of the judges are.
Yeah. If you, well, I don't know. According to Judge Apps, what do you think? L0s or L1s?
I don't think that L0s would really count.
So
I personally, in my head, I'm thinking for judges.
The majority of certified judges are L1s.
Yeah.
And that's great. The majority of Magic happens at your local store at an F&M. Not everyone who plays is going to want to go to a Grand Prix or an SCG Open or even a PPTQ.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that's not what they want to play, or that has no appeal to them because they want to do silly shenanigans with Commander. Nothing wrong with that.
For sure.
But just because I'm an L1 doesn't mean I can't be a leader. And I've already mentioned that in my store, I have my sense of leadership when I put on something like a pre-release or even a draft or an F&M. But even in the judging program, I can still be a leader. And, you know, it might seem crazy. Like, oh, well, I've only been certified for a few months. How can I lead anything? What could I possibly do? I can't ever know more than these judges who have been here for so long. And that's something that is baloney.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
I remember a judge that I was mentoring one time, and it really stuck out to me because what he said was very, very emblematic of this type of attitude, which is that I was mentoring him towards L2, and he said, I can't wait until I make L2 because then I can be your peer. And I was like, bro, that's not how it works. Like, you're already my peer because we're both judges. So there's no need to think that you know, judges of a higher level exist on some sort of higher plane of existence. You know, we're people too. We're just like you and me. It's the sort of thing that this is the sort of attitude, I think, the like, you know, oh, I'm new in the program, so I don't have much to offer in the way of leadership. This type of attitude can paralyze people and keep them from doing the awesome things that they want to do, and that's not okay. You should do awesome things that you want to do.
Oh, definitely.
And if you don't think you're the appropriate level to be doing those sorts of things, you're probably underestimating how much you can do as whatever level you are.
Definitely. Are there other people in the judge program who might be a better rules knowledge person to lead a judging podcast than me? Yeah, probably.
Maybe. I don't know.
But does that mean I can't do it?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and Dalton is doing...
Are there better people in Fort Wayne that David could have found? There are definitely people with a lot more rules knowledge than I have. But does that mean I can't do it? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and Dalton is doing a fantastic job.
Aw, thanks, Senpai.
Judging for the win. So am I, but...
But he's an L2. That's expected of you.
Yeah. So, okay, this is like all the like anti-leadership kind of traits that I wanted
So that's
to
what
talk
leaders
about.
aren't.
Yeah, this is stuff that you're trying to avoid, is doing those types of things that we were talking about.
Does
Now,
anyone in the chat have any questions about leadership?
Yeah.
Because if so, we'd love to answer them, and I don't want to leave you high and dry.
Yeah, we definitely look for our chat for types of stuff. One of the things that I think is really, really important for leaders is and we kind of touched on this before, is understanding that you don't know all the answers. Mm-hmm. And so what?
Oh no, I do not know all the answers.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, it's really great being in a leadership role once you get the confidence, and once you get the confidence is the key, because I feel like a lot of these anti-leadership traits that we talked about are kind of related to a lack of confidence. And we'll develop that a little bit more in the future also.
But you're not wrong. I know that even working at a big event like that, just having other judges around to ask a question, whether I needed them or not, it could be something as simple as, oh, I tried to cast this 6-mana spell with only 5 mana.
Yep.
For a judge, that's probably going to be
it's
a
about
very
as
easy call.
as it gets.
But even just making a call like that, you're thinking, oh, well, like, is there a Simian Spirit Guide I missed? Or what could possibly be going wrong?
Eldrazi Temple coming in here.
Mm-hmm. Just having other judges around gives you a lot of confidence. Or having an app on your phone that provides you with the MTR or the IPG, those resources, they can give you a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Then at the end of the day, that's something that, as a leader, you might want to assess yourself on.
Yeah.
Do you think you can make a confident ruling? And if you think you can, great, keep working on it. You can always do better. Not in a bad way, like come on, David, you can do better.
I could have done better at that rule.
But, you can always stand to improve. And if that's something that you think you might have a hard time with, maybe your player skills aren't so great, or coming up to a table, you might seem like you're a little apprehensive, or you don't know the ruling, take some time to practice.
Yeah.
Maybe have some friends come up with some goofy situations in Commander and figure out how you would approach that as a judge. Just getting that down is super important. And doing so with respect as well. You never want to come out condescending. Yeah. Like, silly player, 6 mana, 5 lands, what a dork.
Yeah, and this is something that a lot of judges I've found can be guilty of too, is they act in kind of a condescending way towards the players, like, oh, these players can't follow simple instructions when like we get deck lists with the names written in the wrong blank, or oh, these players like doing dumb stuff all the time when they like make a play mistake that's kind of it's a minor thing that happens all the time. So don't have that attitude either. That's going right up to anti-leadership trait number 1, where you're the authority is getting to you. So okay, we've talked about what leadership is not. Now it's time to talk about some stuff that good leaders do.
But David, that was so easy.
Yeah.
Just talking about how bad leaders are.
Yeah.
It's so easy.
Yeah, it is.
Do we really have to move on?
I mean, that's kind of what the idea is, right? We're gonna help people by being a good example.
Oh, perfect.
So,
I think that's a great idea, David.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that to me.
Okay. Is that a mentorship thing, or is that?
No, that was just me goofing off. All right, so the first thing, a leader does not have to do everything.
For sure.
If my good L3 friend decides he's going to head judge this event by himself with 1,000 people, he's not doing it single-handedly. Yeah. He needs other judges there.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't, just have other judges there and say, oh, well, I'm going to still do this all on my own because I don't want to make you work. A good leader delegates.
Yeah. And this is important, especially because I feel like a lot of people who are new to leading, especially at events, like team leading or head judging, this is like one of the most common traps that people fall into, is they try and do everything themselves. And good leaders delegate. Good leaders say, okay, you are in charge of this, do this. You are in charge of that, do that. You are in charge of that, do that. And this is important because if you are the leader, you are the only person with the authority to do certain things. And you're the person whose input is needed for certain decisions. And not doing mundane tasks makes you available to do those things that you are the only person who can do.
Yeah.
And that's why that's important. But it's also a big kind of an issue for a lot of people, because if they aren't actively doing something all the time, they feel lazy. Right? So that's for sure a big thing with a lot of judges. And this is one of the kind of biggest adjustments, I want to say, that you have to make when you go from being a floor judge to being a team lead. And when you that was for me the biggest shock of the team lead role, is like, I can't be doing all this stuff myself. I need to be telling other people to do this stuff, and it kind of feels bad because it's like, hey man, I could do this, but I'm telling you to do this. And that's not what it is. It's I could do this, but I need somebody else to do this in case somebody needs me to do something. And that's what the rationale is, and that's what makes it difficult for a lot of judges to kind of get into that mindset. But that's something that you need to do is delegation, and figuring out the right balance of how much stuff to delegate and when it actually is okay to do stuff yourself is a very important skill for leadership.
Definitely. You want to make sure that you don't want to come off as a bad leader. I mean, that's kind of what this whole presentation is about. For sure. So if it seems like you're just sitting there the whole time because you're delegating everything off, then you might want to assess what's going on. Are you delegating too much? Have you run any slips yourself? Have you looked at a deck yet? Have you maybe organized the lists so that another judge doesn't have to? there's a lot of things that you can do while still remaining available.
Yeah. And mentorship is one of the biggest ones of those. Because mentorship, by its very nature, involves watching and observing and understanding what's going on. And those are things that you can do and still be available to do other things.
And that was what I was just about to hit on, is that as a team lead, you might also think, oh, well, cutting these slips, it's super easy. I'll go run them out myself. I always default to slips because that's basically what I've been put on every time. Yeah.
You're on deck checks this week.
I am on deck checks this week, and I'm very excited.
Yeah.
But, could my team lead very easily just cut those himself and pass them out? Yeah. But as a newer judge, my team lead might want to give me that opportunity to practice and to work at that. And that's super helpful. Even if my team lead is now just standing there and may not have something to do, I am learning how to run these events and how to properly do these tasks so that the next time I can do better in the future. So even if you're not necessarily doing it yourself, see if there's an opportunity for maybe someone else to learn. Or if you're not busy, you can say, hey, you also appear to not be busy. Let's keep watching the floor and do these things. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to do this. Finding something for yourself to do can also help. So that's a lot.
Yeah. Now, on the other end of the spectrum is micromanagement. So if you don't delegate enough, that's bad. But if you delegate too much and you expect too much control over how these tasks that you're delegating are handled, then that's also not a good leadership skill.
Dude, leadership just seems hard. Well, you can't do too much, you can't do too little.
It's a skill. you have to learn.
It's an ability.
It's a static ability, I think.
Okay, cool. Like an anthem.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly like that.
If you are a leader, you are an anthem.
Yeah,
done.
Well, hopefully you're an anthem. Hopefully it's not like an engineered plague or something. So what do I mean by micromanagement? Micromanagement is where you delegate something to somebody else and you delegate in too much detail. So either you have too many tasks for them to do, or you have too many requirements on the tasks that are not important to what's going on. And this is another kind of thing that a lot of leaders fall into, and it's closely related to the anti-leadership trait of wanting to be an authoritarian. Because if you're a manager and not a leader, then you are more inclined to care about stuff that doesn't matter. And so one of the things that I guess it kind of comes up a lot, like let's say that you're the head judge and you want to do I don't know, the deck end of round.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, we can do deck checks.
Deck checks are super easy with that.
Yeah. So you want to do deck checks a certain way, right? Now, if you were the deck checks team lead, then that would be your responsibility to decide what way you're doing it. But if you're the head judge and you want to use your authority over the deck checks team lead to say how you're doing deck checks, then that can be kind of an issue, because the deck checks team lead has this responsibility to do the deck checks. And if somebody else who's higher than him is telling him how he has to do the deck checks, then that interferes with his ability to do the deck checks in the most effective way for him and his team. If you are if you have faith that your deck checks team lead is going to do a good job, there's no reason for you as the head judge to come down to him and say, hey, you should do it exactly like this, because if your deck checks team lead is already competent to do that job, then they should be able to find a good way to do the deck checks, because that's what their job is and that's what their role is in the event. So that's what micromanaging looks like. It's basically where you have decisions that could be or maybe should be made here, and they're being made here instead and forced on the people here. And that's bad for a couple of reasons. Number one, nobody likes to be micromanaged.
Nope.
Especially in certain cases where the way that you're being forced to do it is in conflict with the way that you are going to do it anyway. That's never a good feeling, and it's in some cases actively negatively affecting the performance of the judges on your team, because you're being forced to do it this way when you want to do it this way, and because these ways aren't the same, there's a chance that
right through the middle.
you fall right through the middle. There's a chance that one of these is better in a way that you aren't understanding, and that's why it's important to have faith in the people that you're delegating to do their jobs appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I think that's kind of interesting here is that it's kind of ironic, because if you're the head judge or if you're the team lead, it's kind of ironic because the person who's in charge of decisions and makes these decisions often has to give up some control over how these tasks are done.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would think that these people would be having more control over how their tasks are done, but in fact it ends up in many cases being the exact opposite, because if you wanted to exercise that extra control over how it gets done, that's micromanaging, and that's not good leadership skills.
Yep. And a lot of this goes right into our next point here. To the easiest way to avoid micromanagement is to think ahead and find the right people for the job.
Yeah.
If I just go all willy-nilly and I say, oh, I'm going to pick this person because that's his name, well, it's probably not the best way to pick your team lead. But if you say, okay, I know this person, I know he does a good job, I've worked with him before, and I trust him to be a team lead, then you're going to be able to do a lot less micromanaging. Maybe check up on them, things like that, but you won't have to hover over their shoulder and baby them through the whole process, because you're helping give those opportunities to other people to succeed.
Yeah.
If you want your event to be successful, you don't have to be the only one to make it successful.
Yeah. So the final thing that I want to bring up about this point, micromanaging. Oh, there's one more thing. Yeah. Is that
I have failed.
Oh, no. You're good. But it's important to say that it isn't necessarily micromanaging if you have somebody do a task a certain way. Maybe there's a reason. If you have a legit reason why they should be doing it this way, then they should be doing it this way. But the way you package that is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask somebody why they did something a certain way and propose alternatives, that is what a good leader would do in a situation like that. The sentiment that you're trying at all costs to avoid is a message of, your way is wrong, we need to do it my way. And that is what you're actively trying to avoid, because that is the voice of a micromanager saying those things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
sorry
about that.
Hit this one a little.
Sorry
bit.
about that slight detour. The growth opportunities is a big one, though.
Mm-hmm.
Giving and creating growth opportunities is super super important. And it's like we said, there are some things that you can handle yourself, but in the majority of cases, if you're the leader, you're more experienced than the people that you're leading, which means that if there's
hopefully
if there's a way, if there's something to do, then you're probably not the person who's benefiting the most from doing that. Somebody else is going to benefit more from doing that same thing, because my 100th time cutting the results slips, for example, isn't really doing a whole lot for me. But somebody else who's never done it before, or who's only done it a few times and they're still getting the hang of like how you're supposed to collate them together, like the 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing, or maybe their skills with the paper cutter isn't quite good,
or they've never printed to cut directly the right way.
Yeah.
So, always make sure that you're giving people that opportunity to grow. It'd be really easy for a team lead to say, hey, you've done this before, it's going to be easiest if you do it.
Yeah.
Chances are it probably would be. But then that L1 who's never worked an event before is pretty much going to be the same L1 at the end of the event.
Yeah, even if they worked the event, they didn't actually work the event if they didn't get any new experiences. Yeah, they were there, but it's like, did they really? Mm-hmm. So, it's also important to push people outside their comfort zones a little bit. Like, if someone has never done something before, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. In fact, it probably means that they should, because if you don't know how to do something, then you can only learn. My thing that I always say is like you can only learn 80% of the way to do something by studying, and the other 20% you have to learn by doing it. And that's what you need to be aware of as a leader. If you have somebody on your team who isn't confident in their ability to do something, then and that something is part of the responsibilities of your team, then by the end of that event, they should be confident in their ability to do something because they should have practiced it and had other people showing them how to do it and learned how to do it themselves over the course of the event.
Does this mean you just throw them in the deep end and say, you'll learn?
Yeah, no, that's not leadership either. But
that's poor parenting.
Yeah, I mean, like it's poor mentorship is what that is. Good mentorship is, good mentorship doesn't mean that they can't fail or that they won't fail. It's that you gave them the tools, and if they fail, that's okay. But we're watching over them
themselves.
Yeah, it's okay to fail a little bit because if you're good mentors, you're going to be watching over them, and they're not going to fail all the way because you're going to step in at the time before whatever mistake they made is too big to fix.
So,
all right.
So, I think we've discussed that one pretty well.
That's good. That's good.
So, the next thing that you want to make sure you're thinking about when you are, apologies, my nose is running.
Oh, no.
When you are in a leadership position, which is all the time, you don't want to come off as a tyrant.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that mean guy who's so excited that they're now the team lead and they're so much better than all the other. No, you're just a person who happens to be doing a different job. And you want to make sure that you are helping to continue doing that the right way and not being a horrible person. But an easy way to do that is to talk with your group. Just because you are their leader for the event doesn't mean you are morally or any other way, shape, or form superior to these individuals. You are a team first and foremost. Even the position itself, team comes before lead. So you need to be getting input from everyone that you are going to be working with for that event. Maybe you're on end of round. Okay, does that mean you only have to talk to your team? No, you're going to need to talk to scorekeepers about what game or what matches are still out. You might want to discuss with the head judge about how long it's going to take to turn over the round. You're going to be talking with other teams, getting them on matches. There are a lot of people that go into these events, and you're going to need to do your best to work with all of them. And if you're being a tyrant and morally, putting yourself on this high horse, then that's going to be really difficult for you.
Yeah. And again, if it is your call, don't be afraid to make it, but be prepared to defend it if somebody asks why you did what you did, and be willing to change your opinion on what you should have did if someone comes up with a better idea or they think of something that you didn't think of.
Yeah, so if you're working this position, you say, oh, well, it's the end of round 5, and I've been doing this all day, but their option is better.
Yeah.
It's okay to change.
Yeah, you always can be looking for ways to improve. Mm-hmm. And that segues nicely into the next point of don't be afraid of screwing up.
I feel like this is just like playing Magic at this point.
Exactly like playing Magic. Because, just like in Magic, you don't have perfect information. So sometimes you're going to make a misplay because, you're playing around one thing and the other thing happens. And a successful leader has to realize that, there's going to be some mistakes that you're going to make during the day. And you have to be able to recover gracefully when one of those happens. If something happens that isn't in your plan, just fix the problem. Think about what you can do better next time and move on. Don't wallow in regret. Don't be so afraid of that possibility that you never try new things. Because trying new things is very important for figuring out the best way to do things. Mm-hmm. But again, you want to try new things in a way that is, let's say, if you do fail, then you can fail and recover gracefully rather than fail and screw everything.
Think about the risk to reward ratio here.
Yeah.
If you are like, I'm going to try something new, but if it goes wrong, the whole tournament stops.
Yeah.
Probably not the best place to try it out. But if you think, hey, I'm going to try this new thing out, or, this person told me a new way to do a deck check, and I'm going to give it a shot, and maybe a match takes a minute or two longer because you tried something new.
That's
the risk to reward there is significantly lower than a scorekeeper trying a new software.
not
it's not that would ever happen,
or
but
cause an entire tournament to grind to a halt.
Exactly. So it's great to try new things, but let's be smart about it. So this next one is something that we've mentioned a little bit before.
Yes.
But it has a much bigger scope than you might think.
Yes.
And that's that a good leader has to be diplomatic. When you present yourself to a table, you want to make sure you're making a good impression. You don't want to come off as, laid back or like you don't care. You don't want to come up and think, oh, well, you're just another call today and this isn't important because I've already answered this question 10 times. And how do you not know how Blood Moon and Urborg interact with? You need to take every call like it is an important call. Because to the players in the game, it's very important.
Yeah.
If someone comes to you with an issue and they present it to you and you are the judge in the scenario, you have to take responsibility for it, even if it wasn't your fault. Or if you didn't know about it, or if there was no possible way to avoid it.
Yeah. And the key here is to be focused on the solution rather than the problem. Mm-hmm. So if someone suggests something to you, thank them and let them know by your words and body language that the idea is appreciated. And even if you're not going to do it, you still have to accept these feedbacks, criticisms, whatever you want to call them. You have to accept those gratefully because every single one of them might be great, and especially if you're the leader, it can be kind of intimidating for someone to come up to you and say, hey, here's something I think you might be able to do better.
Yeah, I think that this would be a much better situation if you just were smarter guys.
See, Dalton has great body language right now. If for an anti-leader to have look how engaged and present he is in this pose that he's taking here.
But also, when we're being diplomatic here, it's more than just players. Like tends to be what we think about when we're judging, because that's going to be a lot of who we interact with. Is we're putting on these events for the players. We wouldn't be here without them. But you also need to be diplomatic to a whole lot of other people.
Oh, yeah.
If I come up to the scorekeeper and I start making demands of him while he's or she is talking to a customer, I come off looking like a dingus.
Yeah, and nobody likes having a dingus as the leader. So
No.
that's something you want to try to avoid.
If you go up to, and maybe this isn't going to be necessarily the case with a larger event, but maybe a PPTQ or something, and you come up to the store owner and you just act like you don't care about their venue at all, he might not be judging there anymore. You really need to think about how you're presenting yourself at all times. When you put on this judge shirt or when you put on one of those SCG polos, you need to act like the judge that people expect you are. Or else you're not only leaving a very bad representation of yourself, but of the program as a whole.
Yeah, because players don't know who one specific judge is.
Always another judge.
They see a judge do something, and it's the judge program doing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even if you have the name tag on, they don't know what your name is. They don't know who you are. And
Yep.
they don't know that, I'm doing it this way, and he's going to do it a different way, and the way I do it isn't the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be wary of the fact that you are a representative of a greater whole when you are.
David, how many times would you say you've answered a call where a player goes, "Oh, well, another judge said I could do it"?
It happened just last week. And
Yeah.
Let's see, what was it? This was the call where Bishop of Binding. So he has the Bishop of Binding, and
Ooh, this sounds like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. Right. So
That is not a Bishop of Binding.
yeah. So, oh my gosh. We're gonna hear this one.
Chat, does anyone know any good jokes?
Okay. Other than me misclicking on the push to OBS button. So yeah, he had a Bishop of Binding. He exiled a card, and the card was like something that like had abilities like this gets +3/+3 as long as you're the city's blessing or whatever.
Yep.
So something like that. I don't remember which one it was. Sunborn Sentry or something maybe.
Snubhorn Sentry.
Oh really? I was thinking it was Sunborn.
Snubhorn.
So yeah. So
Well,
what's the power in exile? Well, you look at the exiled card's power, And that would mean that it gets +0, +0.
But I bet you another judge told him it was 3.
He or she sure did. And the player was very dissatisfied with this answer. But that's what it was, and so we had to correct that. Okay, so have a plan. Have a plan is the next one. Whatever it is as a leader that you're doing, you have to know how you're doing it. And if you're coordinating the activities of several other people, that's much easier when everyone has a clear picture of what they're going to be doing. And don't stress out about like plotting every little detail. Just think in a big picture, because that's what your responsibility is as the leader. The people whose job it is to actually do all those tasks, their responsibility is to worry about what the details are. So only do the job that you need to do, and trust them to do the job that they're going to be doing.
Definitely. And so I see we're getting a little close to time here.
So what's the number one?
Possibly the most important aspect of being a judge, and as counterintuitive as it might seem with this leadership discussion, is that you need to look out for the number one person in all of your magic scenarios.
The customer?
Yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Yourself.
So what does that mean? Does that mean that you're too good to work an event now, and that you're just kind of feeling like you probably don't have to do this because why not? No. If you're looking out for yourself, that might mean that if you're feeling like you've taken on a lot of events recently, that it's okay to say no. You don't have to work every single F&M at your store just because the players there want you there. It's okay to be a person. It's okay to have a life outside of Magic.
Yeah, and very importantly, it's okay to understand that you're one person, and one person can do X amount of stuff, and X is not infinite. And so even though leaders often do and are called to make sacrifices on behalf of the people who they're leading, it's important to keep a perspective of how much benefit is other judges getting from this versus how much am I giving up, and only making those sacrifices when the math adds up right. And a lot of the time it doesn't. So it's not selfish, it's being smart about what your capabilities are and what your time and energy is worth. So I'm going to close with a final thing, something that came up in my level 2 advancement interview, and it stuck with me ever since. The fact of the matter is that if you're a judge, you are a leader, and people will look at you differently. And that's why. It's the only reason is because you passed an exam and you went through an interview, and now you have a black shirt. And you might not feel any different, but you are. People take what you say more seriously. And that's true if you're a higher level judge too. The higher level judge you are, the more seriously people take what you say. And that's true inside and outside of a tournament. It might not be right, and it's an attitude that we should be working to counteract, but that's the way things are. And as a result of that, you can use this power for good or for evil. Few forces are as positive for a community as a leader who effectively unites Magic players with a common vision. On the other hand, a judge who does the opposite and shows themselves to be a tyrant or one of the other anti-leadership things that we talked about earlier has a profoundly negative impact on not only the community that they're a part of, but also the people's opinion of the judge program. And so judges who have those types of tyrannical or any other sort of things, the common theme that I've seen is that they allowed the respect that players often showed them as a result of their authority position to feed their pride. And therefore, they became condescending and unapproachable as a result. So more than anything else, I think humility is the key to great leadership. Humility is the antidote to every single one of the anti-leadership traits that we talked about before. If you're humble enough to believe that someone else may know a better way than you, you won't want to micromanage and you won't want to avoid delegation. If you're humble enough to realize that you can't do everything yourself, you won't have a problem saying no to one more thing to do. If you can handle authority without being overweening, people will be glad to follow you, and you won't need to rely on authority to get them to do something. So strive to show true humility every time you're in a position of leadership, and never forget that even though you're, in some sense, the boss, the correct way to be the boss is to be a servant also, because that's what we're doing. We're servicing the customers, and that's the attitude that you want to have. You want to have the attitude of the people at this event, the judges that I'm working with. All these people are valuable, and just because they have their trust in me today, that doesn't make me any different from any of them. And that's an important perspective to keep.
Also, don't play it with opalescence. That is so cliche.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll talk about that interaction in a future cast. So that's a lot to take in.
Yes,
is there any questions, any comments? Does anybody have any input on how they thought this broadcast went, as opposed to some of our other like rules and policy topics? Do you want to see more or less? Is it about right? So any other final questions or thoughts in the chat before we sign off?
Because from David and I, obviously we've been thinking about what we want to present on this stream.
Oh yeah.
And as important as rules and policy is, so is leadership in the program.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we are hitting on the topics that judges should know, regardless of whether or not their rules, interactions, or policy questions, or whatever.
Yeah, everything you want to be, or everything that's interesting to you as a judge. That's what we want to be talking about, and we want people in the chat and people who are, more better perspective than us to know what's interesting, to share those perspectives with us. Just like what we were saying earlier, it's important to have that type of perspective. All right. So, anything else you'd like to say, Dalton?
I think that about does it for me for tonight.
Yep. This it was great.
Oh boy.
Be sure to show up for our next broadcast. That's going to be in 2 weeks' time on the 19th. Till then, everybody, we will see you next time. Bye.
Have a good night.